Imagine having so much money that the US government has to write specific laws just to stop you. Imagine being 3 times richer than Jeff Bezos. Adjusted for inflation, John D. Rockefeller was worth roughly $400 billion. At his peak, his fortune accounted for nearly 2% of the entire American economy. That is not just wealth, that is an empire. But here's the scary statistic. For most wealthy families, the money is gone by the third generation. It's called the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves curse. The grandfather builds the business, the father enjoys the money, the grandson blows it all on fast cars and bad investments. 90% of wealthy families lose their fortune completely within 3 generations. Yet the Rockefellers are different. 6 generations later, they are still one of the most powerful families on earth, still have billions, still influence politics, still shape the world economy. How did they break the curse? How do you build a fortune so sturdy that not even the Supreme Court, the Great Depression, or 2 world wars could destroy it? The answer isn't just oil. It's a ruthless system of wealth preservation you can actually learn from. To understand the money, you have to understand the man. And to understand the man, you have to look at his father. John was born in 1839 in upstate New York. He was an ordinary boy with a very extraordinary problem. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, was a con artist. The neighbors called him Devil Bill. Towering, charming, manipulative. He vanished for months at a time, traveling town to town, posing as a doctor, selling miracle cures for cancer, useless potions made of oil and berries. He charged desperate people top dollar for hope that didn't exist. He was a swindler, a cheat. He secretly married another woman while still married to John's mother, living a double life. Devil Bill bragged, "I cheat my boys every chance I get. I want to make them sharp." Imagine your own father actively scamming you to teach a lesson. Chaos rewired John's brain. He hated risk, gambling, unpredictability. He craved order. He craved control. While his father threw money around, young John counted pennies. He bought a small ledger, called it Ledger A, and recorded every cent he earned and spent. Candy, pennies donated to church, every cent. Pocket money became a corporate balance sheet. Survival. He learned if you watch the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. At 16, John got his first job, assistant bookkeeper, 50 cents a day. Most kids hated the boredom. John loved it. He loved numbers, clarity. Business was a game of optimizing inputs and outputs. By 1859, he saved enough to start his own business. He borrowed a little extra from his father at high interest and launched a produce shipping company, grain, hay, meat. He made money, but he wanted bigger. Pennsylvania was bubbling with black, flammable, terrible-smelling oil. The oil industry was chaos. Prices fluctuated wildly. One day a barrel cost $10, the next 10 cents. Wells ran dry. Fires burned towns. John saw opportunity, but he wasn't a gambler. He calculated. The money wasn't in drilling, it was in refining. Crude oil out of the ground is useless. You can't light it in a lamp. You refine it, you make kerosene. Rockefeller controlled the refineries. He controlled the industry. He built a refinery in Cleveland, named it Standard Oil. Marketing masterpiece. Dangerous kerosene, explosions common. He promised safe, reliable, consistent quality. But quality wasn't enough. He wanted dominance, obsessive efficiency. Every drop of solder in cans, every bit of waste oil repurposed, lubricants, tar, Vaseline. He sold kerosene cheaper than anyone else and still profited. Then the railroads. Secret rebates, competitors' oil shipped. He got a cut. Costs so low he could undercut rivals, drive them to bankruptcy, then buy them. The good combination, he called it. By 1872, 22 of 26 competitors in Cleveland were absorbed. By the late 1880s, Standard Oil controlled 90% of U.S. oil. One company owning Shell, BP, Exxon, Chevron. Imagine that. Power came with a price. Public hated him. Cartoons showed him as an octopus wrapping around industries. Stress internalized. Stoic. Rarely spoke. In his 50s, his body revolted. Terrible digestive issues. Alopecia. Lost all hair. His eyebrows fell out. His mustache fell out. He looked like a ghost. He had to wear wigs to appear in public. The richest man in the world could buy anything except his health. He was living on crackers and milk because his stomach couldn't handle real food. One newspaper wrote that he looked like a mummy. He realized he was mortal. He realized that accumulating money was killing him. He had conquered the game of business, but he was losing the game of life. Then the government stepped in. The Sherman Antitrust Act was passed in 1890 to stop monopolies. For years, Rockefeller used his lawyers to dodge it. He was slippery. But in 1911, the Supreme Court dropped the hammer. They ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly. They ordered it to be broken up. Standard Oil was sliced into 34 separate companies. You know them today. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Rockefeller's enemies cheered. They thought they had destroyed him. They thought they had punished the tycoon. But they were wrong. They made a massive mistake. They forgot how the stock market works. When the company split, Rockefeller still owned shares in all the new companies. And because these new companies were now forced to compete, they became more efficient. The value of their stock skyrocketed. The breakup didn't bankrupt Rockefeller. It tripled his net worth. Before the breakup, he was a multimillionaire. After the breakup, he became the world's first billionaire. He had more money than he could ever spend. But remember the curse. Making the money is only half the battle. Keeping it is the hard part. Rockefeller saw what happened to other rich families. The Vanderbilt family was once America's wealth, but the heirs spent it on mansions and parties. Within a few decades, the Vanderbilt fortune had collapsed. Rockefeller was terrified of this. He was terrified that his children and grandchildren would become soft. So he pivoted. He changed his entire strategy. He went from accumulation to preservation. This shift started with a change in his public image. He was the most hated man in America. He needed a rebrand. He hired a publicity expert named Ivy Lee. Lee told him to stop hiding. He told him to show his human side. Rockefeller started carrying a pocket full of dimes. Everywhere he went, he would give a shiny new dime to adults and a nickel to children. It was a small gesture, but it became his trademark. The cold, ruthless monster became the nice old man giving out coins. But the real change was the Rockefeller Foundation. He approached charity the same way he approached oil, with cold, hard efficiency. He didn't just want to give money to beggars. He called that patchwork charity. He wanted to solve the root cause of the problem. He called it scientific philanthropy. He poured millions into medical research. He funded the eradication of hookworm in the American South. Hookworm was a parasite that made people lethargic and weak. People called Southerners lazy, but they were actually sick. Rockefeller's money cured them. This boosted the economic productivity of the entire region. He founded the University of Chicago. He funded the research that led to the yellow fever vaccine. He funded the Green Revolution that modernized agriculture and saved an estimated 1 billion lives from starvation. Was this guilt? Maybe. Was it a tax strategy? Definitely. Was it a way to buy a legacy that wasn't just about greed? Absolutely. But while the foundation was saving the world, Rockefeller was also building a fortress to save his family's money. This is the part that applies to the modern day. This is the secret sauce. Rockefeller knew that if he just handed $1 billion to his kids, they would ruin it. So he used legal structures that were unmatched at the time. The first key is the We Be Irrevocable Trust. Most people own their assets. You own your house. You own your car. If you get sued, you lose your house. If you get divorced, you lose half your car. The Rockefellers don't own their assets. The trust owns the assets. Imagine a vault. Rockefeller put his money, his stocks, and his real estate into this vault. He handed the key to a group of professional trustees, lawyers, and accountants. He told them, "This money does not belong to my children. It belongs to the trust. My children can only use the interest generated by the money, but they can never touch the principal." This does two things. First, it protects the money from stupidity. If a Rockefeller heir wants to bet $50 million on a bad business idea, the trustee says, "No, I can't let you do that." The heir is protected from themselves. Second, it protects the money from enemies. If a Rockefeller gets sued, the lawyers can't touch the billions. The Rockefeller heir can stand in court and say, "I don't have any money. The trust has the money, and I don't control the trust." It is a bulletproof vest for wealth. The second key is the family office. A normal rich person hires an accountant and a financial advisor. The Rockefellers created an entire company just to manage their life. Rockefeller and Comer sits in Rockefeller Plaza. It employs hundreds of experts. These aren't just stock pickers. They are risk managers. They handle the taxes. They handle the legal work. They handle the philanthropy. They handle the insurance. They even handle the education of the children. The family office creates a culture. When a young Rockefeller is born, they aren't just given a credit card. They are educated in the history of the family. They are taught the responsibility of the name. They have annual family meetings that function like corporate board meetings. They are taught that they are not the owners of the wealth, but the stewards of it. Their job is to pass it to the next generation intact. The third key is the waterfall insurance strategy. This is a bit technical, but it's brilliant. The estate tax in America is high. When you die, the government takes a huge chunk of your wealth, sometimes 40% or 50%. This destroys dynasties. The Rockefellers use life insurance to bypass this. The trust buys massive life insurance policies on the family members. When a family member dies, the death benefit pays out to the trust tax-free. This influx of cash replaces any money that was spent or taxed. It refills the bucket. It's a perpetual motion machine of money. The investments grow. The trusts protect the principal. The insurance refills the losses. The family lives off the interest. This system allowed the fortune to survive long after John D. died in 1937. He lived to be 97 years old. He didn't reach his goal of hitting 100, but he reached his goal of immortality. Fast forward to the modern era. The family has continued to evolve. One of the most famous modern Rockefellers was David Rockefeller. He was John's grandson. He died in 2017 at the age of 101. David was the CEO of Chase Manhattan Bank. He was a globalist. He met with dictators, presidents, and kings. He was often called the unofficial president of the United States. Under his watch, the family moved beyond oil. In fact, in a shocking twist, the Rockefeller Family Fund announced in 2016 that they were divesting from fossil fuels. The family that built the oil industry sold their oil stocks. They cited climate change and ethics. Some people called it hypocrisy. They said, "You got rich destroying the planet, and now you want to look like the good guys?" Others called it smart business. They saw that oil was the past and green tech was the future. Just like John D. saw that refining was better than drilling, the modern family saw that sustainability was better than extraction. They are still ruthless capitalists, but they have adapted to the times. Today, the Rockefeller influence is everywhere, even if you don't see it. It's in the United Nations. The Rockefellers donated the land in New York City where the UN headquarters sits. It's in the medical system. Modern medicine is largely shaped by the curriculum standards the Rockefeller Foundation pushed for in the early 1900s. It's in agriculture. It's in banking. So what is the lesson here? Is John D. Rockefeller a hero or a villain? It's complex. He was a brutal monopolist who crushed his rivals without mercy. He bribed politicians. He broke the law. He was the embodiment of greed. But he was also the greatest philanthropist in history. He gave away over $500 million, half of his fortune, while he was alive. His money cured diseases and educated millions. He proves a difficult truth about capitalism. Innovation often comes from obsession. It takes a certain kind of mania to build a Standard Oil. Nice guys don't build empires that control 90% of the market. But the biggest lesson is about the money itself. The Rockefellers proved that getting rich is a skill, but staying rich is a discipline. It requires removing your ego. It requires locking up the money so you can't touch it. It requires thinking 100 years into the future, not just next quarter. Most people try to look rich. They buy the Gucci belt and the leased BMW. The Rockefellers focused on being rich. They lived quietly. They drove older cars. They tracked every penny. And because of that, while other famous families have faded into history, the name Rockefeller still means power. They built a fortress so strong that the world couldn't tear it down. John D. Rockefeller once said, "The only thing that gives me pleasure is to see my dividends coming in." It sounds cold, but that cold, hard focus on the numbers is why his great-great-grandchildren are sleeping in silk sheets tonight. Now, if you want to understand the other side of wealth, the side that involves gold, kings, and bankrupted nations, you have to hear the story of the Fugger family. They were the Rockefellers of the Renaissance, and their story is even crazier. Click this video right here to watch it. You won't believe how much money they actually had. Go on, click it. I'll see you there.